Hello, and today I'm here reviewing Summer and Bird by Katherine Catmull. And as with any book, the first thing that we always notice is the cover. Well, on this one, it is pretty plain. It's just white and it's got some birds on it. And me and my son just happen to be obsessed with birds. We have an owl that lives out in our backyard and stuff. So I was like, well, this kind of looks like a pretty book to me. And it has a huge swan up at the top, and it's called Summer and Bird. So I picked it up and I was like, well, you know what? It'll be a very nice read to fit in between new releases because I have a lot of those coming up. So when I picked it up and started to read it, I was like, wow, this is really, really good. Like, it flowed well, it was really well written. And then, the further and further I go into it, I realize that it is a fantasy book. It is. I mean, it's a fantasy book, and it's not written like, if I was to read another book by this author, I would immediately know that it was the same author because nobody else writes like this. It's very, very different from anything that I've read, style-wise. It was a fantasy novel. It doesn't look like a fantasy novel to me, but it is. There's a lot of magic in it, and basically what it's about is these two sisters. And that was another thing that was like spot on, but I'll get to that in a minute. But it's about these two sisters and their parents come up missing. So somehow they end up in this world that birds refer to as the Down. Okay? And basically it's this like alternate place where the birds go, where they live. And it's kind of like this in-between place between Earth and what they call the Green Home. And Green Home is like amazing, and it's where they're supposed to go for a certain part of the year just to, and it's gorgeous apparently. I don't know. It's a little complex. I still haven't grasped the whole aspect of it. I haven't figured out if it's, but anyway, it was a very, very, very original book. If it had roots anywhere, it would probably be in like the Swan Maidens or like the Swan Princess. That's pretty much the only place where it has roots. Because other than that, like, it's really a story about sibling. Oh, I can never say this word. Sibling rivalry. I can't say that word. Anyway, it's about that, and it's about parents choosing a favorite child because that child is more like them, and then you find out, and it's the family issues in this book are so spot on because some people really are like that, like they have a favorite child, even if it's just like they don't even realize it. Like, some parents have a favorite child. And then you also have the shocking thing. Sometimes children, like, let's say that you favor one child because you think that it's smarter than the other child. Okay. And then the other child comes up with this huge talent that you never knew anything about. Like, it's automatically, like, one day that child takes chemistry and it's like chemistry genius. And it blows you away. Like, that's kind of what happens in this book. The girl named Bird, she was always like a bird. Her mother ends up, it's pretty obvious from the beginning, but the mother is the Swan Queen. And she named her child Bird because she was very bird-like. And so that was the mother's kind of favorite child. and Summer was the eldest, but she was left out. And then towards the end, we find out that Summer has more of a queen in her than Bird ever did, even though Bird is the one that's most like a bird. So it was really, really interesting in the family dynamics in this book. And then we had the really well written, flowing writing style that was very individualized. I mean, it was very, very different. So that to me was like a huge bonus in the thought in this author's favor, because I love it when I read a book and I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely this one or that's definitely that one. So in this, you can definitely tell that this is a very unique style. It's not something that you would ever get confused with another author's. And it was just beautiful. It was a beautiful book. I really loved the cover. And then something that didn't make sense to me is, you see how all the birds are plain on the cover? Like they're all plain, but there's only like one swan and one owl, and that's kind of like the big thing. And then do you notice this little shiny bird right up at the top? Do you notice that? That actually plays a huge part in this book. Also, this book has an amazing villain. To me, a villain is amazing when they're a little terrifying, manipulative, and they are highly original. And the villain in this is highly, highly, highly original. Like, sometimes the bad guy is like Captain Hook, who wants revenge. And then, like, we have, like, ultimate bad guys like Voldemort, who wants to live forever and he's willing to kill everybody to get that. And then we have bad guys like this, who are just, honestly, they become so passionate about something that they turn evil. Or that they are evil because they're so passionate about something. But this was just an absolutely fabulous book. It is a fantasy book. It could be read by anyone. From ages like 12 and up. There's no smut or bad language or anything like that in there. But at the same time, it has such difficult family dynamics that I think that it could easily be read by anybody, an adult and up, especially if that person is a parent, because I think that makes this book fascinating. It was absolutely great. I think one of the things that I love to do is find authors who aren't extremely well known, or the books are not extremely well known, and I love to review those kind of books. And when I looked on Goodreads, this didn't have a whole lot of reviews, but it did have, like, I think it was like in the, like, it was below 1,000. So I would recommend picking this up. It was extremely well written, flowed good. It was a fantasy book, and it doesn't look like a fantasy book, and I think that may have hurt it. But at the same time, I really, really love the cover. And I give this book a 5 out of 5 stars, because it was highly original. There's nothing else like it out there. The closest thing is the Swan Maidens or the Swan Princess. But other than that, it's completely original. I absolutely loved it. And currently, I am out of books. But my next reviews will be on Percy Jackson's Greek Gods, Sherilyn Kenyon's new book, which is called Son of No One. I am dying to get that one. As well as I have a few more new releases coming up, which are going to be terrific, including I am super, super, super excited about Anne Rice's new novel, Prince Lestat. And I think also Waterfall is coming out by Lauren Kate. And Lauren Oliver has a new book coming out called Rooms. So I think I've got like 7 or 8 new releases, and my son has a couple coming out. So lots of reviews, lots of new reviews about big time new releases. So that's what we have to look forward to. Like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you thought about this video. Also, let me know what you thought about if you've read Summer and Bird, or if you're thinking about picking it up. Also, recommend some books to review, because I always love to know what you want to see reviewed.